doing? Shoot, you want to know something? I forgot my...
Yeah, that's not so bad. And I mean, you're not...
I forgot something. I forgot my computer, so you guys are coming with me. Yes, we are on the road. So that is one control room, and that is the studio. Here we go. Forgot my computer in the newsroom studio. So you guys are taking a field trip with me. If you guys are on, here we go, here we go. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, here we go. Steve Kornacki, the guy who usually does election night. Steve, yes, Steve Kornacki at the big board. He is the man. But you have stumbled across the Stay Tuned Behind the Scenes stream. It's something that we do every single night. It's a two-way street where you get to see behind the scenes on the news every single night. And during the commercial breaks, you can ask questions, you can interact, you can tell us your thoughts, you can weigh in. It's very, very fun. But we are off to the races. We've got, it looks like a call in California, the California governor's race. Hilton is moving on to, thank you so much, to the general ballot, it looks like, along with Javier Becerra. So, there we go. Hi. Hey, how's it going, Lisa? All right, here we go, here we go. Just got to plug this bad boy in. We're off to the races. Good, good. My computer was in the other studio, so. It is the witching hour. Love the behind the scenes. Kendra, thank you so much. Great job, team. Yes, you are totally right on that. Let me make sure that this is plugged into the right thing. Here we go. Got to plug this in. So we're following two breaking news stories as we normally do. And they're kind of the same breaking news stories that have been happening throughout the week here, throughout the month for one of them, 2 months. We've got some breaking news in the California elections. We have now a second announced winner going to the general election. That is Steve Hilton, Republican, going to be facing off against Javier Becerra. And in Iran, I don't know if you guys saw, but Iran shot down an Apache gunship over the Strait of Hormuz. The United States has fired back at Iran, and it looks like things are escalating even further. So what does that do for peace talks? Are we closer to peace than we were before this? Are we further away? We are going to be getting into that with a report from Courtney Cuby, who is amazing. SML, please show us the Steadicam. The Steadicam? Oh, they want to see you and the Steadicam, Rye. That's the Ronin over there. Hello. There it is. Spider. Okay, got it. I'm going to jump in right now. Spider is asking about Plattner, and we are going to talk about Plattner out there in Maine in just a bit here. So yeah, we'll have the latest there. Have you been following all the controversy? What do you make of these latest allegations from his prior relationships? Is that resonating with people out in Maine? We've got Ryan Nobles out there. He says it doesn't seem to be moving the needle very much. Where is Steve Kornacki? Vicky, I am so sorry to disappoint you guys. I think a lot of people are tuning in trying to see Steve Kornacki, and he's usually at the big board. Simultaneously, we also have this thing that we try to do every single night. It is not Steve Kornacki and Kornacki Cam, and I really, really wish it was. But we have behind the scenes. It is Stay Tuned Now. It's something else that we've been experimenting with here at NBC News, and it's basically my show. So my name is Gadi Schwartz. I'm a host, correspondent here at NBC News, and at 5 o'clock here on the West Coast, 8 o'clock out on the East Coast, we've got a show every single night where we cover the news of the day, and we also do this behind-the-scenes stream. That's what you're seeing right now. So in just a little bit, what you're going to see over here, actually we'll probably go picture-in-picture. I'll be down here, and then the full show will be playing up there. and that's going to be Stay Tuned Now, and that's going to be an hour-long recap of all the craziest stuff that's been happening today, including the elections that are happening all over the country right now. Not as many as we've seen in the past, but definitely going to be watching what's happening in Maine. And so we've got Ryan Nobles out in Maine following the latest on all the primaries right now, including South Carolina as well. So Matthew, hello, how's it going? Man, we've got a lot of people that are here, and I think it's because Kornacki, they're expecting the Kornacki cam. Lisa, I hate to be the disappointer of the people, but the Kornacki stream is here, and they're like, yo, where are the khakis? I mean, these are kind of, they're tan. They're more like a linen thing. Yeah, I'm not wearing natives anymore. Those things broke my foot. They're those like kid shoes, and I love them, and then I broke my foot wearing them, so yeah. Jacob Queen, hello, how's it going? It's election night, Monkey Beast, that's exactly right. This video should be shared across the country, around the world, in every podcast. Don't know which one you're talking about. Hi, hey on Twitch. Okay, just a rundown for those of you that might be joining us right now. SML says that we can't hear you, Lisa, so we'll work on that. But if you guys are just joining us, I see there's a bunch of people watching on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitch. What we are doing is a pre-show. This is Stay Tuned Now behind the scenes. So if you've got a television, our show is not on yet. It is Top Story with Tom Yamas, an incredible show. Then that goes from 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock. Stay tuned with Gotti Schwartz, this guy. We will start, and if you're watching on television, it'll look like just a normal, a little bit more of a casual but normal news show. And I will be speaking to camera here. But if you've stumbled upon this stream and you want to see something cool, throughout the segments, I'm going to be checking down here. This is actually where I can watch return, and then over here is where I can read the chat. So I can read what you guys are saying here. So if you guys have a question for one of our guests or one of our correspondents, I'll be able to ask that in real time. It's really great. We've seen that time and time again. We also see a lot of people having some really interesting story ideas that come straight from the chat that go out to our producers, and the next thing you know, you'll see it here on TV. So that's the idea. It starts in about 7 minutes, 6 minutes. And when the show starts, I'm gonna just kind of lock in on the big cameras until the commercial breaks. And during commercial breaks, we can have a conversation. When will Steve Kornacki's show start? Hey, Lisa, do you wanna be the bearer of bad news here?
Wait, can they hear me on
Is
this?
Steve Kornacki in today?
I think I just have to unmute here. Even I'm really loud on you though. You just have to turn me down.
All right, guys, heads up to A6.
Is Steve in today or no?
He is not in today.
That'll be a wall.
Oh, she said it, not me. So don't kill the messenger. Her, not me.
I
But
asked.
stick around, guys. Taste the news in a different way. This is our show. And just like the Kornacki stream, no, look, it's not at all like the Kornacki stream. The way that Steve Kornacki looks at numbers is, you know, it's just a true love, and we all want to be there to witness it. But what this show is it's an interactive news platform for people that, you know, want maybe a teeny tiny bit of realism and optimism, and at the same time, a reality check on everything that's happening right now. So this is disappointing Neftali. I'm really sorry about that. We want Steve Kornacki. Balin 12, brother. I hear you. I do too. But this is not that stream. This is the Stay Tuned Now stream. And it's something that we do every single night. So if you guys like what you see, tune in tomorrow, and we'll see how it goes. 4:55, so that means in 5 minutes, we're going to get off to the races. And at first, we were going to be leading with the shoot down, the Iranian shoot down of this Apache gunship that happened in the Strait of Hormuz. And just a little bit ago, we saw what happened here in California. It looks like Becerra is now going to be challenged by Steve Hilton, who has made it to the general election. And those numbers just came in. So we've got Liz Kreutz, who's been doing incredible reporting on the latest in the race for governor here in California. We're also going to be talking Plattner. We're going to be going out to Maine, Ryan Nobles. And then we're going to be looking at South Carolina and beyond. So all of that is coming in. But right now, NBC News is projecting that Republican Steve Hilton will be taking that second position on the November ballot here in California. Jelen, it's understandable today's primaries weren't very interesting until Plattner drama. I mean, I hear you, Jelen, but, you know, Steve needs a day off from time to time. Julie, only here for Steve. That's how we are all the time. SML. Ooh, SML saying we need Steve. That stings, SML. That really, really stings. Reed's a real one. I am Bathman. Gosh, I got to restart this whole explanation. Steve Kornacki is getting some much needed rest. Marge Richardson, 2094. Good to see you. Chiron Chan is asking, what, Steve? Okay, so Steve Kornacki, here's what's happening. Usually, NBC has a few different things going on YouTube, right? We've got the Steve Kornacki cam, which is amazing. And then at the same time, we have my show, NBC News Now, streaming on the main channel. And then we also have this side channel. I know it's complicated, but we have Stay Tuned Now behind the scenes where we're able to chat. And that is the experiment that we're running here. So I feel bad for these guys live right now, although we do love Steve. Shadow to Cross, thanks so much. Steve will be on. Steve's going to be on all the time. Hey, Mark, don't say that. We love that guy. And here she is, Liz Kreutz. Hello. In the house. Liz, guess what happened?
What?
So why is Steve not on this chart? You mean chat. Something horrible has happened.
What happened?
People want Steve Kornacki, and they've accidentally stumbled upon our stream, and they're like, what? This is not Steve.
Oh, no.
So Steve Kornacki is not working today, and his stream is dead.
Wait, Steve works so hard, though.
Dude,
he's
Steve
been working
is the
like
best.
every night for...
He totally has. And guess what? He gets a little bit of time off. But we've got Liz Kreutz, and she's going to break down the latest in the governor's race. And we're out here in California. So no big board. Actually, this is going to be this is a huge board. This is Big Mike over here. He's next to the big board. Big Mike is like 7'9", so it's a massive board. I'm going to go stand next to that board in these, you know.
Hey, why does Big Mike get taller every time you give us his height?
Huh? I know. It was 7'8" yesterday.
Height?
6'3". Okay. All right. Here's what's going to happen, guys. For those of you that are just joining us, I'm going to mute you here in 45 seconds. We are going to start our show. It's going to look like the news, but don't worry. If you guys are talking in the chat, I will try to read along, and if you have questions that are pertinent to what we're talking about, I will try to get them asked and answered on our show. It's bigger. Here we go. Picture in picture, 30 seconds. Actually, let's leave up this whole thing so you can see Lisa in the control room there in 30 Rock. And then up at the top, that is also 30 Rock, control room. How many seconds? 10 seconds? What's going on? Yeah, can you guys start it? There you go. All right. You guys ready? Have a good show. Hey there, we are coming on the air tonight with breaking news here in California. NBC News is now projecting Republican Steve Hilton will advance to the general election in November in the race for governor, where he's going to face off with the state's former Attorney General, Javier Becerra. This is the culmination of a ballot counting process that took a full week, causing lots of people to start alleging election fraud, including the president, after city council member Nithya Raman pulled ahead of reality TV star Spencer Pratt in the LA mayoral race. Trump called it a rigged election several times on social media. And now both the vice president and the Speaker of the House are joining that chorus. Take a listen.
But somehow we find ourselves in a situation where, number one, they're still receiving ballots, not just counting ballots, Jesse. They're still receiving ballots. And number two, the way that they're coming in just so happens to work out such that the Republican is getting kicked out of the final two.
I think California is playing around with this.
But what evidence is there to prove that there was
Look, some of these efforts are so diabolical and so far upstream it is impossible to prove. But I think everybody knows instinctively something is wrong here, and that's a concern.
Let's get straight out to NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz here in Los Angeles. So, Liz, this just happened.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you make of this? Is it shocking that a Republican made the #2 spot, or is this what was trending all along?
Yeah, well, I think for the past week, we've seen Steve Hilton holding pretty strong in his second spot. Tom Steyer was making gains, but for the past several days, it's been seeming likely that Steve Hilton was going to face Javier Becerra. It is notable that Tom Steyer, who is in third place, spent more than $200 million of his own money, just a record amount of money funding his campaign. Ultimately wasn't enough to get him into that second spot. At the end of the day, though, if you've been following this race, you know that there has just been so many candidates in the race that it split the Democratic vote. A lot of Democrats were hoping that two candidates would progress to the runoff. But I think just seeing how many candidates there were splitting the vote, not surprising now that Steve Hilton is moving on.
Yeah, and it feels like every second that goes by, another mile of conspiracy forms here. Does it seem like the distrust that we're starting to see here in California is causing concern among local and statewide leaders?
I think what we're seeing from Democratic lawmakers in this state and Democrats in general right now is a concern that this is setting the stage for what's to come in November. California is going to have some very hotly contested House races, and we are already seeing some Republicans, starting with the president, sowing doubt into how elections are run here. There has been discussion, bipartisan discussion, though, over the past several days about potentially trying to figure out ways to speed up the process, because even if there isn't fraud, people are saying, okay, it's 2026, does it need to take this long? It has opened the door to the perception of fraud. Here is what Republican political strategist Rob Stutzman told me. He is someone who worked for Schwarzenegger. He helped Schwarzenegger get elected in the recall election several years ago, knows the state very well. Take a listen.
So California could go a long way towards squelching the conspiracies if they had a much more efficient system. But at the end of the day, there's no evidence of fraud or fraud of any magnitude that's actually going to swing the election. And if Karen Bass was rigging this election, she'd let Spencer Pratt finish second. She'd much rather face him than Rahm in November.
Yeah, that's where the conspiracy goes and kind of hits somewhat of a dead end, right?
Right, because we have these polls from the Berkeley Institute of Governmental Studies came out actually showing that if Karen Bass was going up against Spencer Pratt, she would win in a landslide. Here you can see she'd win in a landslide by like 18 points. But now going up against Nithya Raman, this shows that she's going to have a much harder fight. In fact, this shows Nithya Raman pulling ahead in that poll. That would happen before we got these results, but it just shows you that one of the ways that Democrats are pushing back on these claims is saying, come on, if it was rigged, she would have wanted to face Spencer Pratt. And we say that, of course, because LA is such a heavily blue city. Democrats outnumber Republicans.
And again, we've been doing quite a bit of math, and there's no one that knows math like the NBC decision desk. And yet the count is not technically over, right? Have we heard from Spencer Pratt?
Spencer Pratt has been notably quiet. Last night is when NBC News projected that he would not be advancing. And I believe the only thing he has posted since just happened a little bit ago. And it's a picture of a duck sitting on calm water. So we can make of that what we will. We will say earlier in the day yesterday, he did put out a tweet urging his supporters to, sort of patience, saying there's still a lot of votes to be counted. But we haven't heard from him yet. He did say at some point in this campaign that if he didn't win, he was going to leave LA. So I know some people are wondering to see what he does next.
Yeah,
but we'll see.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Sitting duck from Serenity, I guess. Liz Kreutz, thank you so very much. And turning now to some other breaking news that we're following in the Middle East, where the United States is once again striking Iran, launching attacks in retaliation for the Iranian shootdown of a U.S. Apache gunship like these over the Strait of Hormuz. Now, CENTCOM is saying these are self-defense strikes against Iran that are a proportional response to unjustified Iranian aggression. Now, both Americans on board survived. They were actually rescued by a U.S. drone boat in this pretty historic mission, which we're going to get into in just a sec. But first, the president blaming Iran for that escalation and said that the U.S. must respond. He also seemed to play down the whole thing in a phone interview with the Wall Street Journal today, telling the paper that the downing of the helicopter wasn't a big deal and the pilot is fine. And last night, he said that shooting down a U.S. helicopter shouldn't affect chances for a peace deal with Iran to end the war.
We're very close to having a very, very good, strong, powerful deal. If we go and bomb, which we can do very easily if we want, and we spend another 2 or 3 weeks bombing, they'll have nothing left whatsoever.
Now let's bring in NBC's Courtney Cubie for more on this. Courtney, what more do we know about these strikes, and could we expect more tonight?
It's totally possible that we could see more strikes. It appears that the direct retaliation by the U.S. military for the downing of that Apache helicopter may be complete. But Gadi, we have seen back and forth between the U.S. military and the Iranian military, or in many cases, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRGC. We've seen that been ongoing. It's been ongoing now for a matter of weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see the continued escalation and back and forth between those two. Now, as for these strikes, the military hasn't provided us with any real detail about what they hit yet. We should expect to get more on that. But they did say the strikes were proportional based off of this attack of the Apache helicopter. Now, what that tells us is that generally the U.S. military, when they talk about proportionality of strikes, it means that they went after something that was a direct threat and that was directly related to this attack. So we should expect things like coastal radar sites, drone launching sites, things that could be used, structures, facilities, or even equipment that could be used for launching drones. And that would be what the military would generally consider proportional. And again, and as they have called them, self-defense, in helping to defend against future attacks by these same systems.
And Courtney, the pilots that went down, the chopper pilots that went down, the two that were on board, like a drone rescue in the middle of the sea? Have we ever seen anything like this before?
This is a first. And I mean, it's pretty remarkable. I mean, when you look at how this unfolded, there was a drone that brought down a U.S. military helicopter and a drone that rescued the pilots who went down in the Strait of Hormuz in that crash. Now, in this case, it's part of Task Force 59. You see some of these drones, you know, these aren't little remote controlled boats. These are giant boats in many cases. It was a 24-foot Navy boat, similar to the one that you're seeing there, known as a Corsair, that was used here. The military has had these deploying off of Bahrain for several years now. We got an up-close look at it just a couple years ago when they first started this program. And basically what it does is map out parts of the water. It looks for patterns of life. It looks for smugglers or even potential terrorist activity in an area. But this is the first time that it's ever been used to rescue two people. In this case, it came upon these two soldiers. It was the dark of night. They were floating in the Strait of Hormuz. They were able to climb aboard this 24-foot unmanned boat. Again, unmanned, no one driving it. It was able to take them to a different location where a helicopter was able to pick them up, hoist them up, and then take them to a medical facility ashore.
Yeah, wow. I mean, just imagining them in the middle of the night clinging to something like that, really fascinating, Courtney. And then shooting down this chopper, then more airstrikes. It may continue. And all of this while a peace deal is maybe in the works. Are we closer or are we further away from peace tonight?
So President Trump continues to say that they are very close to a deal. But one of the biggest hurdles, we've talked about all these hurdles to a longer lasting peace deal, and they include things like opening the Strait of Hormuz, what's going to happen with the Iranian nuclear program and their nuclear material. But one of the biggest hurdles, if not the biggest, to some sort of a temporary or even a preliminary agreement here is the ongoing fighting between Hezbollah and Israel. And Gadi, that just continues, even despite the fact that there has been a ceasefire there since April. Iran sees those two issues as completely linked, meaning that they see any kind of a ceasefire between the U.S. and Iran and linked to a ceasefire between Israel and Hezbollah. As long as that firing continues, it's hard to imagine that Iran would agree to anything here. What's remarkable, though, is despite what we've been talking about here, the U.S. firing at Iran, Iran firing at the U.S. military, the president, both sides still continue to say that there is an ongoing and lasting ceasefire. And that is because the major combat operations inside Iran, that continues to be on pause here. What we're seeing go on in the Strait of Hormuz and into the Gulf of Oman is basically the outcome of two competing blockades between the Iranians and the U.S. military. They're both operating in very close proximity to one another, and we see these escalation ladders of they push a little closer to one another and then a little closer to one another, and then it continues to lead to this, escalation of strikes on both sides. Now, generally, it's then been brought back, and then it sort of builds back up again every several days. The concern here, though, is something like what happened last night. A U.S. military helicopter was down. President Trump has said that if a U.S. soldier is killed, a U.S. service member is killed, he would consider restarting major combat operations. Something like what happened last night could have huge strategic implications for the ongoing tensions there in the region, Gotti.
Courtney Cubie, thank you so much. And turning now to Maine, where polls just closed, NBC News is projecting the Democratic primary for Senate is still too early to call right now. So many eyes are on that race, not only because it's an absolute crucial Senate seat for Dems to win in November if they want to retake the chamber, but also because the leading candidate, Graham Plattner, is at the center of a national firestorm. There are a slew of allegations surrounding him and his personal conduct, including from 3 different women who have had relationships with him in the past. Here's what some voters told our Ryan Nobles on the ground.
It gives me pause, of course. I'm really trying to look at the issues and who is representing the issues that are important to me.
The things that came out about him that were negative in the beginning, he owned up to them and apologized. And this one he's saying is a flat out lie. So I tend to believe him on that, since he did apologize for the original, the stuff that came out early on.
And Ryan joins us now from Maine. Ryan, can you break down all of the controversies Plattner is in the middle of right now?
It's quite a bit, Gotti. It started with some deleted social media posts where he made light of sexual assault and picked on rural voters. It then became this revelation of a Nazi tattoo that was on his chest that some say resembles a Nazi tattoo that he claimed he didn't know the meaning of, but then later covered up. And then more recently, there was a series of text messages, sexually explicit text messages that he sent to women outside of his marriage. That happened early on in his marriage. His wife has since forgiven him. And then most recently, there were 3 different women who he once dated and was in a relationship with that accused him of being toxic and unsettling in their relationships. Now, Plattner has pushed back on a lot of these claims, in particular that last group of claims. He said that they're politically motivated and in some cases are just outright false. So far, though, Gotti, being on the ground here, it doesn't really seem that it will impact his standing with Democratic voters in Maine, as he's expected to cruise to victory here tonight.
Yeah, and zooming out here, how does Maine usually vote, and why is this race so critical?
So Maine has been trending blue. In fact, it's gone blue in the last 3 presidential election cycles. And so Susan Collins stands as somewhat of an outlier. She is the incumbent senator here. She's looking for her 6th term. She does have a special connection with these voters, but Democrats really believe that this is their year to win her seat back. Collins, though, has put a lot of the focus on Plattner. She is doing everything she can to make sure Maine voters know about his record. This is what she told us earlier today.
The allegations against Graham Plattner are extremely troubling and serious, and he owes the people of Maine a detailed answer.
And so while Democrats are mainly motivated by the idea of getting Collins out of office, Republicans believe that she is their strongest weapon. She has defied expectations multiple times before. They believe that this time around won't be any different.
And there were also elections today in South Carolina, Nevada, North Dakota. What should we be looking out for?
I think the most interesting of that group is South Carolina, and it's mainly all on the Republican side because that's a deeply red state, and whoever wins these primaries will likely win the general elections. A very competitive governor's race. Henry McMaster is the favorite, in part because he got Donald Trump's endorsement. That's despite the fact that there are 2 sitting members of Congress who are huge Trump supporters, and Ralph Norman and Nancy Mace. they are likely to fall short. The other race that we'll be watching closely is Lindsey Graham. He, of course, a longtime Republican senator, someone close with the president. He has a MAGA challenger running to his right. It's not expected that Graham could lose that race, but if that MAGA challenger does well, it could indicate exactly how soft or not as strong Graham's support might be with the base of the Republican Party.
Interesting. NBC's Ryan Nobles out there in Maine. Ryan, thank you. And now to NASA and Artemis 3, where we just learned which 4 astronauts are going to head up into space and test some spaceships in what has basically become a showdown between Blue Origin and SpaceX to get humans onto the moon. Now, these are the crew members of Artemis 3, 2 mission specialists, a pilot, a commander, and these 4 are expected to launch into Earth's orbit next year, going up in the Orion spacecraft once again, which we saw during Artemis 2. But once up there, they're going to be linking up with not 1, but 2 different lunar landing systems in orbit that will eventually take astronauts to the moon surface in 2028, hopefully. First off is going to be Blue Origin. This guy, which, yes, is raising some eyebrows because you might remember just 12 days ago, this happened. One of Blue Origin's New Glenn rockets exploded in that fireball during a static test. But both Blue Origin and SpaceX say they expect their landers to be ready on time. And if all goes according to plan, Artemis 3 is going to serve as that layup for Artemis 4 to land a crew on the moon for the first time in 50 years. NBC's Tom Costello sat down with NASA Administrator Jared Isaacman and the crew of Artemis 3 to talk about all of it. Here's part of their conversation.
What does this announcement mean today?
Well, I would say today's announcement is another step in the direction of returning American astronauts to the lunar surface. I mean, you think about it, just a couple weeks ago, we were all gathered here at Johnson Space Center as Artemis 2 came back from their historic voyage around the moon, and weeks later, we're already announcing Artemis 3, we're already getting the hardware ready. This is another step in the direction of getting astronauts back to the moon, and this time to stay.
Give us a reality check. Given the recent struggles with both SpaceX and Blue Origin, how likely is it that this Artemis 3 mission really happens next year?
I mean, we're here announcing the crew for Artemis 3 because we need to get them in training because they are launching into space in 2027. Now, people ask questions, what is the implication from this setback or the other? I say go on YouTube, type in NASA early 1960s. You'll see an awful lot of videos that look just like that. I mean, that's part of the process. They're uncrewed. They're intentionally designed to be safe. You keep everybody away from the launch area, but that is the iterative design process that both Blue Origin and SpaceX have leaned into to fail fast, get the data, roll those improvements into the next rocket. We got a year to go. I have no doubt you're going to see lots of SpaceX launches. You're going to see Blue Origin launches. We are going to put NASA experts in the field to drive the outcomes until all that hardware converges in Earth orbit in 2027 with Artemis 3. We test out those landers. We get the data once again. We'll go back into testing until 28 when Artemis 4 lands on the moon.
And just like the Artemis 2 astronauts, this is the mock-up that the Artemis 3 astronauts will be training in. Inside this Orion ship, all 4 preparing for their big orbit around the Earth. The tough question that I'm sure you're expecting, are you a little disappointed that you guys aren't going to the moon? You're going to be orbiting the Earth.
Not at all. I mean, the most important Artemis mission is the next one. We don't get to a lunar landing without this flight. And be able to take not 1, but 2 lunar landers, put them into space, and work out all the procedures to dock Orion to it, rendezvous with it, dock with it, check out its operations. And so this is essential. There is no lunar landing without this. And so we are fortunate to be able to be the test crew that goes out and does this flight.
But so far, there is no lunar lander for you to dock with.
They're working on it very quickly. And haven't you seen that? You know, both these companies are working, all hands on deck to get these things done. And certainly, Ignition Day and certainly the impetus from the Artemis 2 mission with just the excitement and the torch that they lit that the world saw. We see that impetus within everybody right now across the agency and within industry.
Yeah. Luca, talk to me about the international element to this, right? Because on the last mission we had, of course, Jeremy. We've had plenty of European and Japanese astronauts and Russian cosmonauts before. How critical is it that there is an international element to Artemis and your participation?
I think Norm Knight said it well this morning. We go faster if we go together. And we, as Europeans, we are proud of our capability to build bridges communities, to buid cooperation and collaborations. We want to be with NASA as strong partners. We want to be in the pilot seat next to our commander and support this incredible endeavor. This is an opportunity. It's both symbolic but also very real.
Randy, last question to wrap it up. What do you hope is the legacy of Artemis 3?
That we, as Michael Collins said from Apollo 11, that we carried the fire. That we took everything that Artemis brought, all the challenges that we have with this mission, and the things that have to be proven out before we can land America first again on the lunar surface, that we did our part, and we carried the fire to the next flight.
Carry the Artemis fire. What a thing to carry up into the heavens. Joining us now to talk about all things Artemis 3 is retired NASA astronaut Steve Robinson, one of my favorite people in the world to talk about Artemis with. Hi, Steve. Great to see you. A lot of these guys have so much flight time. Like when us mere mortals look at their flight logs, it's hard to wrap your head around. From the military to NASA, they've been in the air days, weeks, in space, in at least one occasion, for a year-long mission that went way beyond what it was expected to. And yet these four guys that are headed up there, in terms of being test pilots, how do you see the mission ahead?
Well, they certainly have chosen, by the way, Gotti, good to be here with you again. And they certainly have chosen an extremely experienced crew. Let's look at the numbers. 5 space missions for a total of 885 days between them. They have had 14 spacewalks. Believe it, I counted up the college degrees. There's 11 college degrees amongst these 4 people. This is experience. The commander alone has 6,000 hours of flying. And I have flown with Randy Bresnik quite a few times in jets. And he is a pilot's pilot. And I think this mission, as complicated and as challenging as it is in excellent hands.
Yeah, I mean, there are boots on the ground, and then, as you mentioned, there are pilots. This is a pilot mission. I mean, this is 3 spacecraft that are going to be operated here. What do you see as the most challenging part of this particular mission?
You know, this crew and also everybody on the ground has to be very conversant in the engineering performance of all 3 vehicles. And so what we're talking about here is the Blue Origin moonlander, the SpaceX moonlander, the Starship, and the Orion, which has only flown with people just one time. And it's going to be modified for this flight by adding on a docking system, which is not a minor thing. Now, each of the crew is going to enter each of those spacecraft. So that means the spacecraft has to be able to support human life. So the life support system, which is really complicated, and we're talking about air and water and waste and food, all has to work right in all 3 vehicles. So that's a major part of the test.
And there was some ambiguity today, and I'm sure we'll get some clarity in the upcoming days or weeks. It sounds like they're going to be spending 2 days in the Blue Origin version. Abbreviated time in the SpaceX Starship version, which I'm not sure if they're going to be able to get in or if it's just kind of like a docking situation. But Steve, I wanted to get your take. A little piece of breaking news came out of this where they talked about how Starship may be used in Artemis 4 for the translunar injection, meaning they take that little capsule, they attach it to Starship, and then Starship is what pushes it to the moon? Like, that comes out of, I mean, did it come out of left field here? Because that does seem like a surprise.
Oh, no, it did not come out of left field. Whenever you design a mission, you always have kind of these forks. We could go this way or we could go this way, you know. In the Apollo, setting up for Apollo, as you probably know, Gotti, space geek that you are, there was a huge argument about how the rendezvous would go, whether to go into lunar orbit, whether to come back to lunar orbit. And in this case, you have to look at the kind of the lifeboat opportunities. If those things don't go right, when can the crew get back home? And it turns out that it may be if the Starship takes Orion to the moon. Well, Orion's got to get there somehow, right? So some rocket's going to take it there. if Starship takes Orion to the moon, it may take less fuel transfer into the orbital Starship, and it may afford the crew a earlier way to get back if they're not able to land on the moon.
If they're going to fill up the tank with all those additional launches of Starship, then might as well use that to get to the moon, I guess. That's fascinating stuff. And speaking of things that are the same and then also different from Apollo, like NASA right now, they have been getting a lot of heat all day online for the lack of women on this crew. I know they released a statement a little bit earlier this afternoon, which reads in part, NASA's crew assignments are determined by a variety of factors, including upcoming mission needs requiring training timelines, crew availability, mission-specific technical requirements, and the skill sets and experience of astronauts eligible for assignment. These 4 astronauts were best suited for the mission profile given the demands of additional missions. And not to, look, not to trash NASA at all, but like that definitely sounds like it was written by an engineer. Steve, Artemis 3 was originally supposed to go to the moon, and they had a very different roster, I think, in mind for the first boots on the ground in 50 years on the moon. And then they had to reshuffle the deck, if you will, for now Artemis 3, which is a bunch of test pilots going up and testing this aircraft. How do you see the decision to not have any women on this particular mission?
Oh, I would rather that there were, frankly. I work in a university environment where everybody deserves to be motivated and inspired. But look, this is just a single mission. This is just one mission. I've been around the NASA astronaut business for a very long time. I've seen an awful lot of crew assignments, and everyone is just pretty much what they said, even though it sounds like very much like a NASA, a federal agency wrote that. It's actually true. They do pick the best people to go on the mission, and I very much hope that there will be a woman on the mission that lands on the moon, Artemis 4. I'll bet you there will be.
And just going through and looking at like the contenders for this mission before they were announced, I mean the astronaut corps is so stacked. If anybody wants to feel this big, go onto NASA's website and read the resumes for all the men and women. It is truly the best and the brightest that humanity has to offer, and a lot of missions ahead. Steve Robinson, always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so very much for stopping by. And don't go anywhere. Coming up next, the urgent flash flood situation across the Midwest tonight. We are tracking the hardest hit areas, plus the search for a bear who terrorized a Japanese town comes to an end after days on the run, how they finally caught him. That's coming up, so don't go anywhere. And also, if you see this little QR code, go ahead and scan through. You can chat with us live during the breaks. That'll take you behind the scenes. You can ask questions. You can tell us your takes. We want to see them on YouTube, on TikTok, on Twitch. Swing by and let us know your thoughts all hour long. All right, 2 minutes, 2 minutes. Okay, guys, I know, not Steve Kornacki, but that is our show. That's how we do. Stay tuned now. And this is the, little intermission where the TV goes on and now there's commercials going, but then you and I, we can chat about what you guys think. Let's see what everybody's talking about. Peace Bucks. What? Top 1,000 astronaut candidates? Peace Bucks, that's amazing. My grandfather worked for NASA during the Apollo missions, and my uncle was big in NASA as well on a bunch of the heat shielding. So it's always been in my family. Just the math, Apple did not hit this on the way off the tree. Let's see. Helmuth, great to see you. I worked in tech until a few years ago. That explains your technical expertise in everything. Gotti, could you shout out my partner, Dave? What's up, Dave? Thank you so very much for watching. The best. Zachary, where is Kornacki Cam? Do you guys want to tell him, or should I tell him? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but Kornacki's off today because guess what? He needs a break. He has been doing the, humanity's work, crunching all those numbers, and that big brain needs to rest. So, Bernard, have you know what other states are considered huge battlegrounds for the Senate race and midterm elections? I have to get back to you on that because I need to see who's still in play. Set a record flying Amarillo to Flagstaff, Jeff Burke. That's your ancestor. Wow. Here we go. America, someday. I hope not, MS, but good to see you. You went to space camp in Cali? I went to the one in Huntsville just for a visit. It's a very interesting story. All right, 15 seconds, here we go.
10, 5, 4, 3.
And here are some of the other headlines we are watching tonight. A massive fire torches an apartment building in Massachusetts. This happened this morning. 12 people were evacuated, but they are doing okay. And get this, officials say they were unaware of the fire until crews arrived. And Nick Reiner says he wants to get to his trust fund so that he can defend himself for allegedly murdering his parents, Rob Reiner and Michelle. Today, his lawyers filed paperwork requesting the money, and Nick Reiner pleaded not guilty to 2 counts of murder in connection with his parents' killings back in December. And just a few days before Team USA's opening World Cup match at SoFi Stadium here in Los Angeles, the union representing the nearly 2,000 workers say they have an agreement to avoid a strike. Now, workers are getting a significant bump in pay and the ability to walk off the job if the union says they think ICE agents pose a credible threat to workers' safety. And a bear causing panic near Tokyo for days is finally off the streets. After tracking down this bear with a drone, he was shot with a tranquilizer gun and then captured today. Then another bear was seen chasing and attacking people in Fukushima, and that bear is still on the loose. And there is a major recall tonight for Jeep owners. Stellantis is recalling more than 1 million Jeep Wranglers and Gladiators because they could catch fire when turned on. The models affected are from 2021 to 2025. Stellantis has said affected customers will be notified by mail on how to move forward. And it was a dramatic day in and outside of a Texas courtroom after a jury found a teen guilty of murder in a case that has reignited questions over race and the justice system. Ryan Chandler has a reaction from Texas.
Tonight, emotions boiling over outside the courthouse. Protesters in each other's faces, some openly weeping. And for others, relief that justice was served.
You think this is justice for Austin?
I believe so.
As a Texas jury finds 19-year-old Carmelo Anthony guilty of murder for stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet last year.
You will never, ever disrespect a black woman like that.
Numerous witnesses said Anthony instigated the confrontation, the prosecution calling his actions unjustified and intentional, telling the jury, you don't get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the shove. In closing arguments Tuesday, the defense again tried to portray Metcalf as the aggressor, that he made physical contact first, and Anthony defended himself in a split second of chaos. What was it like?
What was it like?
When the verdict was read.
I feel like it was designed to protect white people, the system, and it was not designed to protect black people. It's self-defense.
Supporters of Anthony have raised concerns for a fair trial after no black people were seated on the jury. Inside the courtroom, tears from both families. Anthony's mother described as weeping, later asking the court to please have mercy on my son.
And it looks like Anthony was just sentenced to 35 years in prison. Turning now to a scary scene in the Florida Panhandle. A Navy worker is in critical condition after a shark attacked him yesterday while swimming near the base. NBC's Steve Patterson has more.
Yeah, Gotti, this all happened in Panama City, Florida, right next to a naval base. It was during a recreational lunchtime. These 2 staff members were swimming and they encountered the shark. What happens next is pretty graphic.
Tonight, the violent shark attack caught on camera. A man spotted fighting for his life, blood in the water, and harrowing pleas for help. It happened at a naval facility in Panama City Monday morning.
Shark attack out at the Navy base.
Authorities say 2 staff members went for a swim in the nearby recreational marina when the shark struck, attacking one of the men, severely injuring both of his arms.
Have y'all got the person out of the water?
No, the person I think is still in the water.
First responders rushing the men to a local hospital, a naval commander saying their actions were critical.
We continue to have the safety of all our personnel paramount in all of the operations that we do on board the base.
Look at it. Oh my gosh.
The attack comes during a string of similar shark sightings.
Oh my gosh.
From a nature trail in Brooklyn
Wow, that's sick.
to a fisherman hooking a great white in Nantucket.
Yeah.
Tonight, authorities say that naval staff member in Florida is now recovering from surgery.
And Gotti, that staff member has yet to be identified. Authorities say he's in his late 20s. We know he was taken originally to the hospital in critical condition with those wounds on his arm, treated and then underwent a surgery. We're told he was recovering from that surgery and then transported to yet another trauma hospital. So pretty extensive injuries he's recovering from right now. Gotti.
Steve Patterson, thank you so much. And powerful storms are putting millions of Americans on high alert tonight as flash flooding battered parts of the country earlier today. And NBC's Maggie Vespa has this one.
Tonight, chilling new video of a truck turned on its side by flash floodwaters in southern Indiana. Watch as the driver tumbles out of the vehicle into the rushing water.
One just jumped out.
And look at this, what appears to be a propane tank spewing gas as it's swept away. Rescue boats deployed as residents race to evacuate. The deluge swallowing trucks and tractors and leaving this Little League complex totally submerged.
We've lived here 25 years. Never seen it like this.
A powerful system tearing through Kansas overnight, bringing hurricane-force winds with gusts topping 100 miles per hour. One driver miraculously uninjured after she was blown off the highway. High winds in New Mexico whipping up walls of dust, blinding drivers. While back east, the flood threat isn't over as more storms slam the region.
We're scared, we're nervous, but we got to clean up now and hope it doesn't come back.
Maggie Vespa, NBC News.
And coming up, with millions of people heading to America for the World Cup in just a few days, we are taking a look at the influx of people and what that means for local businesses in host cities. That's next on Stay Tuned. Uh-oh, it's doing the Zoom thing. Ah, that's too close.
2 minutes.
Why is it doing the Zoom thing? Let me see if I can switch up this camera. Front ultra? I know, right? Yeah, it's still doing it. Hold on, let me see. Front cam. Nope. Nope. What the? Back cam. I don't know why it does this. This is so interesting. Anyway, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this. There we go. It's a little bit better. Lise, we got 90 seconds. So what else are we talking about here? Oh, now we're back. Steve needs a new job title, election chief correspondent. Yeah, I would love that. He needs a raise. I mean, look, I'm just a teeny tiny cog, but I agree. Steve, he needs the world. He is a national treasure. Yeah, Peace Bucks, people are dealing with it right now. Let's see. Hi, Bells.
About 1 minute.
1 minute out?
The big wall.
Big wall, okay, got it. Let's see. Wait, in Jacksonville on a base, I got bumped by a shark? What? You know, it's pretty interesting. Like, sharks actually are pretty common down in Manhattan Beach. I used to surf down in Manhattan Beach. And we would see what we thought were dolphins, but then later people would be like, no, it's definitely sharks. There was one that, you know, there were these crazy surfer kids.
Oh, you're at the desk, buddy.
Oh, at the dead.
You got 20.
20 seconds, okay, cool. All right. And these crazy surfer kids would go try to touch this shark, and they called him Chompy.
7.
Crazy stuff.
No.
World Cup, here we go. Hey, welcome back. With the World Cup just days away, cities hosting matches are preparing for all the fans headed their way, right? So tickets are one thing, but hotels, that is a different story. And those hotels are not too happy about it. NBC's Ali Canal explains.
This summer, it's never been more expensive to own and drive a car in America. The average new car costs almost $50,000. With interest rates still high, average monthly payments hit an all-time high of $773. And while gas prices have come down a bit, the Strait of Hormuz is still essentially closed, and you're probably paying north of $4 a gallon.
Prices are crazy, so I can see why people would want to conserve their money.
I've been walking to school now because of the gas prices.
Americans are searching for deals. One place they can't find them, Chinese electric cars. A booming biz. Last year, more than half of all cars sold in China, the largest market in the world, were electric. But Chinese automakers selling more than 500,000 cars in Europe last year too. A big reason why? They're cheap. Leading the way, Chinese automaker BYD, which outsold Tesla in Europe starting last year, with some models starting under $30,000. Our Tom Yamas got a test drive while in China.
You can't get this in the U.S. right now.
No.
That's because of a ban on Chinese technology and 100% tariffs on China-made EVs. But now, a growing call to let China at least make their cars here.
They want to come in and build a plant and hire you and hire your friends and your neighbors. That's great. I love that. Let China come in.
But U.S. automakers don't want China to come in. They cite national security concerns around Chinese spying. But the bigger issue might be price.
China has been going into lots of international markets and undercutting price in those markets. Might be very, very hard for U.S. automakers to adapt to.
Some believe the U.S. can compete, but only on a, quote, level playing field. GM CEO Mary Barra talking with our Christine Romans as part of our new Business in America series.
Can GM match the quality and the price of those Chinese competitors?
Well, I think you have to look at what's happening, and we know from a Chinese vehicle perspective, they're being subsidized heavily by the government. I'm confident that we can compete.
The problem is China's entire EV industry has spent decades benefiting from its own government support. The U.S. tried to offer some support with the Biden administration's EV incentives, but many of those policies now phased out, and the big three U.S. car makers racked up tens of billions of dollars in losses from EVs over the last few years. The Alliance for American Manufacturing says Chinese cars coming to the United States could be a, quote, extinction-level event for the U.S. auto sector. As gas prices eat into wallets and generate more interest in electric cars, time will tell what American consumers demand and how much they're willing to pay for it. Ali Canal, NBC News.
Ali Canal with a report that we didn't expect to run. She is very, very busy here at NBC News on how gas prices are affecting EV sales. The one we were trying to run, we got the wrong package, was about how hotels are not happy because a lot of people are turning to Airbnb. Again, Ali Canal wearing so many hats and doing so much reporting, but I'm glad we got to see that report as well. Ali, thank you. Coming up on the future of everything, new questions after Anthropic releases a new AI model that just recently they were saying was too powerful to put in the public's hands. So what safeguards does this one come with? That's coming up next, so stay tuned. Tariff import war stuff. George Warner, the thing is, I thought our economy was all about competition. Interesting. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to buy, cars that do the job that are a lot cheaper. Let's see, wait, hold on. No sound. Can you guys hear me okay? Where is Kornacki Cam? Chevy Chevalier. Oh, I'm so sorry to be the bearer of bad news again, but this is not the day that Steve Kornacki is here. Steve Kornacki is taking some much needed rest. So it's not that you're stuck with me. This is on every single day. This is called Stay Tuned Now. It's my show from 5 to 6 o'clock every single night. We've got the news for you. We try to give it to you in a way where, you can watch and maybe you can go to sleep at night hoping that the world is going to be okay tomorrow. Maybe it won't, maybe it will. But we try to infuse a little bit of optimism into the skepticism of the news. So that's the vibe of the show here. Are you guys saying that you can't hear me? I think you guys can. Looks like my mute button is off. Hello for life. Reed, Steve Kornacki is a national treasure. You should look him up. He's amazing. Anytime you need a election question answered, he is the guy. Here we go. Let me just hit this real fast. We're back in just a bit with Anthropic. See what's going on here. I'm not gonna lie, my favorite segments are always space and the future of everything, because it's important. Hey, welcome back. Tonight in the Future of Everything, we are taking a look at Anthropic's latest AI model to be released, which is built on the same tech that freaked out the entire cybersecurity community and the government. Meet Fable 5, which Anthropic says is their most powerful publicly available model to date. It is coming off Anthropic's private model Mythos, which, if you remember, Anthropic said was too dangerous to share with the public. So the public is getting a safer version, and Anthropic says it has specifically designed Fable 5 to have safeguards against people who try to use it for nefarious purposes. While 200 other entities, including the United States government, are going to have exclusive access to Mythos 5, which they say has the strongest cybersecurity capabilities of any AI model in the entire world. Let's bring in Sam Sabin, Axios's cybersecurity reporter. Sam, great to see you. I mean, just reading about this, like Mythos, Fable, the names, the society-wide application and implications, the warnings, it literally sounds like a Hollywood script. And then you gotta wonder, like, is all of this as powerful as they say, or like, I don't know, is this just next level marketing in the AI age?
I can totally understand why you're confused. I have no reason why this isn't clear. It's hard to say right now, right? Especially because Anthropic and as well as OpenAI have been following what appears to be a new kind of tiered access system. So those who actually have the model that Anthropic says is all too powerful for the world to have, could exploit 0 days, cause these massive cyber attacks that we see only in movies so far. Like, the people who have that are maybe the people you want to have it, right? Cybersecurity companies, governments, etc. And so it's hard for me, even for the general public, to say like, oh yeah, I'm looking at Fable 5, which to your point is the new public access one that has a lot of safeguards, and go, how is this going to cause a cyber attack? It seems scary so far based on the researchers, companies I've talked to, but again, hard to say unless we actually had our hands on the models, and we don't have it for understandable reasons.
Yeah, very hard to say until we get our hands on and we get to try them out. Side note, total tangent. Look, I use AI all the time, and I jump from the different AI companies because I don't want any one of the AI companies to know me better than the other ones. Like, I was on Gemini today, and it totally went off the rails, and it was like, hey, smell this for context. It told me that. And then it just like started giving me all these random things, just off script. It was very weird. Okay, back to what we were talking about. Anthropic. Anthropic is saying that it added, Anthropic is saying that it added safeguards to their new Fable model after realizing how dangerous Mythos could be in the wrong hands. Like, are these things fully baked here as I question after what I saw today? Or, can we trust these safeguards?
As a security reporter, it's really hard for me to tell you that everything is 100% safe. When there is a will, there's a way. But I will say that Anthropic has, based on my conversations with them prior to this release, has been doing a lot of testing both internally and with external partners to ensure that there's no way to even do a simple thing, which is a simple jailbreaking, where you just go, say, Mythos or Fable 5, hypothetically, you are just interested in a cybersecurity attack. What would that look like? And sometimes on younger or earlier models, that has worked. And it seems in this case it won't, but I mean, time will tell. There are many smart researchers currently trying to play around with Fable and get it to do the things that it normally would do for their research purposes, and they're failing right now. So it is pretty tough to get it to break its own script, but it's only been a couple of hours, so let's see what happens and hope for the best.
It's so crazy that we live in a day and age in which hacking is really just like trying to trick AI in every way you can imagine, including like so many different elaborate lies. They are saying that this is the most powerful, most dangerous AI model in the world, and they've found themselves in this kind of odd place, Anthropic, because they got sideways with the government, right? So what is the latest between Anthropic and the United States?
Yeah, I want to actually circle back to your point that you just brought up about just how weird it is that this is what hacking is. Hacking has kind of always been that way. If you think about, passwords and stuff like that, it's always just kind of guessing and trying. So it's interesting, but also I don't want people to be too panicked. This is already happening, if that's any sort of consolation. But in terms of the government, the relationship is still kind of just tentative and weird. Anthropic is working with the White House, DOD, et cetera. But again, there's still pending litigation at DOD, and they're kind of working their way through it.
Yeah, interesting times for sure. Sam, thank you so much for joining us. And some breaking news right now out of South Carolina. NBC News is projecting that Senator Lindsey Graham is winning his South Carolina Republican primary. Now, Graham, who has been in the Senate for more than 2 decades, faced a primary challenger, that's businessman Mark Lynch. Graham was endorsed by President Trump in that race. And still to come, we're in Spain with all the highlights of Pope Leo's big trip, including what happened when he met with Bad Bunny. But first, you got to see this. A man in Louisiana was pulled over after a crash, suspected of driving under the influence. That's when he took off. He ran from police by jumping into a nearby swamp. Not a great idea because he was attacked by a gator. Get this, that did not even slow him down. He kept on running from police. He was eventually located by a drone. The suspect was taken to the hospital. He's got non-life-threatening injuries, but he's also been charged with driving while impaired and resisting arrest. We'll be right back.
All right, 90 here.
All right, here we go. Wow, that was a good segment. 90 seconds. How are we doing on time, Lise? I stuck to the questions. I did. I don't think I heard you if you told me earlier. I heard your I gotta go. Political slot machine. You make the news feel more positive and human. Thanks, political slot machine. Look, I don't want the world to end. I've got kids, and so the vibe of this show is literally the news, usually not great news. So optimism, whenever we can get it in there, that's what we're gonna do. SML, bless you. I took gator photos on my walk here in Florida today. No way, really? They're that common? That's terrifying. 30. Let's see. H-Day, say the one with the fence at, wait, which one are you talking about? Toe? I'm just gonna call you Toe, okay? Let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, ouch, for sure. Also, did I see Irish in the TikTok? No, in the Twitch? 10 seconds. All right, here we go. Ready?
5, 4, 3.
Hey, you want to know what Jaws and going to the dentist have in common? Teeth, chompers, and maybe in the future, that shark ability to grow back your teeth. What if humans could do the same? Well, researchers in Japan have been developing the world's first drug that may allow people to actually regrow their teeth. And this works by blocking this protein that usually suppresses development instead of activating our dormant third set of teeth. And joining us now is NBC News medical reporter Dr. Akshay Syal, the doctor with the best teeth ever, to talk about this. Dr. Syal, thanks so much for joining us. How is this going to work here?
So, Gotti, really, this is an exciting sort of thing in what we call regenerative dentistry. And just, I want to say off the top, I don't know how you guys find these stories, but it's really, really remarkable. I mean, your social media feed must be a, just a joy to scroll through. But this is, sort of the idea of regrowing teeth with the intention of, one day replacing dental implants, right? People lose teeth all the time, whether from trauma, maybe they fell somewhere, or whether, they have a congenital condition, something that they're born with. So that's where this comes in. And essentially what this is you can see on your screen there, sort of regrowing teeth. This is a previous animal data that the researchers in Japan have shown. Essentially how this works, and I think we have a really good graphic for this, Scotty. I want to pull this up. Yeah, you can see on your screen there on the right, that is a monoclonal antibody, something that targets a specific protein in the body and essentially turns it off. And what that does is, when that protein is turned off, it's sort of like a gatekeeper. And once that's turned off, it allows the tooth to sort of regrow. You can see on the top right there, the tooth bud of third dentition. Sort of the idea here, Gotti, is that everyone is capable of doing this. It just doesn't sort of work for everyone. But with the help of this monoclonal antibody, they're hoping that one day this could be a solution.
Wait, tooth bud of the third dentition. So we have like a tooth seed back there. We just have never activated it. Is that kind of right?
Correct, and that's sort of the hypothesis here. Now, I should caution, animal data is very different than human data, right?
Right.
And when you talk about injecting this drug and seeing what happens, we have to look at, what is the size and shape of the final product? Does it integrate into the rest of the mouth? Remember that it's very important that your bite is aligned, and if it's not, it can cause problems with the jaw and chronic pain and all sorts of other things. How big is that tooth going to be? Is that bud going to grow just a little bit? Is it going to get a lot bigger? These are why those human trials are so important. And by the way, Gotti, they're already underway. This is, the researchers are saying this could be, not that far off into the future should it work. So the human trials have already started.
Yeah, we definitely want to make sure that it's a tooth, not a tusk. When do you think that the drug might be available?
The researchers, Gotti, are saying 2030, which is about 4 years away. Not terribly far, but, still plenty of questions that need to be answered, including, I should mention, is the product even safe? Does it have any significant side effects that would, make this a big drawback? Is it going to be expensive, or is it going to be something that's, really limited to people with a lot of resources and wealth, or is it going to be something that everyone can access? So a lot of unanswered questions, but, I think the tech here is extremely fascinating, and the fact that they've had, really, really good results on animals, I think, speaks volumes. But certainly a lot of people looking forward to this, especially those, who are maybe born with a congenital condition, don't have the full set of perfect teeth. Maybe you're like me and you had an accident once and your tooth fell out and you want to sort of regrow it and avoid an implant. Certainly a lot to look forward to in that regard, Gotti.
Yeah, or maybe you're like me and you have a crown because, you just have a crown. That would be amazing. If we can get a moon base by 2030, hopefully we can get a third set of teeth. Dr. Akshay Syal, thank you so very much.
Anytime.
And before we go, Pope Leo had quite the trip to Spain. NBC's Raf Sanchez has this.
Soaring over Barcelona's skyline, the Sagrada Familia is an unfinished architectural wonder a century in the making. But its central spire, the Tower of Jesus Christ, is now finally complete. 566 feet high and crowned with a cross the size of a 5-story building, it makes Sagrada Familia officially the tallest church in the world.
It's definitely the most exciting church I've ever seen.
Millions flock here every year, including more than 700,000 Americans.
I've traveled a lot, and this is the piece of architecture that blows me away.
And soon the first American pope will be among them, arriving today in Barcelona as part of a week-long trip to Spain, where he was greeted by more than 1 million people in Madrid and held a private meeting with pop superstar Bad Bunny, who was performing in the Spanish capital at the same time, and becoming the first pontiff to address the Spanish parliament, warning lawmakers that war and political polarization are pushing the world into a profound spiritual and cultural crisis.
So the Sagrada Familia looks pretty close to being finished, but from here you can see those cranes all around it. Construction won't be fully done until at least 2034, according to authorities, and even that isn't a firm date.
Tomorrow, Pope Leo will officially bless the completed Jesus Tower and commemorate 100 years since the death of the man who first imagined it, legendary Catalan architect Antoni Gaudi, the mastermind of Sagrada Familia's distinctive shape and texture. He began construction in the late 1800s, and his work was far from finished when he was killed in a tram accident in 1926. But the vision outlived the visionary, And over the last century, generations of architects have strived to finish Gaudi's work. Among them, Mauricio Cortez, who last year took NBC News behind the scenes as his team assembled the giant cross.
Gaudí wanted the cross to resemble a crystal.
In one of Pope Francis's last acts before his death, he put Gaudi, sometimes known as God's architect, on the path to potential sainthood. Now he'll need 2 verified miracles if the Sagrada Familia's continued glory isn't enough. A miraculous monument of faith, unfinished but beautiful, now ready to be blessed by the Pope.
Ralph Sanchez, thank you. That's going to do it for us tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. Guys, all right, that was the show. That was the show, everybody. Welcome to Stay Tuned Now. If you watched and you were hoping for Steve Kornacki, I wish I was Steve too. But we do this every single night, so feel free to come by, hang out. We're on the West Coast, Los Angeles, and we'll give you the news every single day for free. Talk to you guys later, and everybody that came in, really appreciate your time. Bye. Go touch grass.